dedicated to empowering you with information
to make positive choices
and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to The Health View. Welcome to The Health View. I'm Yvonne Donitz, and this is Dr. Laura Chan. And today we're going to be talking about acupuncture, what it is, how it's used, and how you can benefit from it. So Dr. Chan, first of all, you're a naturopathic doctor, and you went beyond your studies to learn acupuncture.
Yes.
And why did you do that?
Well, I love acupuncture. I started as an acupuncture patient. I talked last time about what my experience with choosing to become a naturopathic doctor. What I didn't mention in that story is that that naturopathic doctor suggested that I also see an acupuncturist as part of my way of recovering my health. And so I went to see an acupuncturist and just had an amazing experience with it. It was remarkable.
What happened?
Well, in that very first session I saw, I was nervous going because and now I understand, having been through it myself, why people are nervous about it.
Sure.
But he immediately put me at ease and he said, I think I can help you. And he cleaned the spots on my body with some alcohol, then he put some needles in. And I felt like I was almost even having visions. I felt like I was having this just euphoric experience when I had my first acupuncture session. It was incredible, and I felt energized in a way I hadn't felt in a really long time. So I had, and I knew it was different than what else I was doing because I had started with changing my diet and other things first, and so this was a very unique thing, and I felt amazing and euphoric right after that first experience. And then as I started going weekly, I just felt better and better and better, and it was remarkable.
So it improved your health.
It did, absolutely.
And so in your naturopathic training, do they expose you to acupuncture?
In the naturopathic training, there's a little bit of exposure to acupuncture. When I was making my decision about which medical school to go to, I did a lot of research, and I found when I was feeling like, okay, I do want to become a naturopathic doctor, but I'm also feeling really called to learn acupuncture. There are 2 schools in the country, I think now there might be 3, that offer the naturopathic doctorate and the master's in acupuncture simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
So acupuncture training is a master's degree, and there are over 60 acupuncture schools in the United States. It's a really huge and growing field. And you know, just like with any master's, you need to have your bachelor's in order to be able to go into that. And the school I went to offered both the naturopathic doctoral training and the master's in acupuncture. And normally, the Master's in Acupuncture is a 3.5-year program, but because I was already doing all my science training as part of the naturopathic doctoral degree, I was able to combine both of those degrees into a 5.5-year program.
Wonderful. So before we get into what is acupuncture and what does it do, there's a thing called acupressure. So what is acupressure?
Acupressure is all the same philosophy as acupuncture, and I'll get into that philosophy in a little bit. But instead of using needles to stimulate the points on the body, the practitioner would probably use just their hands and press on points. So even a massage therapist can learn a little bit of acupressure. You can just learn it yourself. You're watching a YouTube video.
Right.
It's very safe. It's just a type of massage, essentially, where you're pushing on certain pressure points. You'd be pushing on the acupuncture points using your hands, but you're not inserting the needles.
And what's the benefits of that?
So the goal would be similar from acupuncture. My experience is that acupuncture, when you actually use the needles, can be even more powerful, or at least you're able to incorporate a little bit more of the whole philosophy into the treatment because you're able to cover more territory. But acupressure can be very, very powerful too. And so the idea is that you're stimulating what are called the meridians.
And what are the meridians?
This is where we get into acupuncture and acupressure philosophy.
Okay.
So in the body, according to the history of acupuncture, which comes out of China originally, so I'll use the term traditional Chinese medicine. That's often how it's referred to. In this tradition, the Chinese medicine, they have described thousands of years ago that the human body has something called meridians, which are considered to be channels of energy. We can't see them, but actually recently with certain scientific studies, we've been able to show that they do exist and that there's a different level of conductivity through these channels in the body.
How does that differ from chakras?
So the chakras are considered to be energy centers
Exactly.
through the center of the body, and the chakras are thought to be how energy from the outside of us comes into our body, and then the meridians are what moves that energy through the body. So I'll often use the analogy of an irrigation system in a garden.
Okay.
So if my body is like a garden, the irrigation system that's moving the water through is what my meridians are, essentially. So let's say in a garden, there's an area where the irrigation system gets blocked, maybe when some stones or some dirt clogs that hose that's moving through. You might have a problem growing plants right at that block, but then also downstream. And so the meridian system in the body is the same. Someone might be experiencing pain in their leg, but I might actually put a point not just in the leg, but also in their arm, because I'm working on the same meridian system. And so the idea is that by opening the block in that meridian, you're able to allow for circulation of what's called qi. Qi is this
energy.
It's energy. It's a vital force. In other cultures, they use the word prana or life force energy.
Exactly.
In Chinese medicine, the word is qi.
Yeah.
And so it's the energy that moves through these meridians, and you can feel it. You can really feel it during an acupuncture session. I try to describe it to patients the first time before they come in, but I say, you'll see what I mean in just a minute. It's not painful. It's a unique feeling.
It is.
And so when I place the needle in, they say, oh my gosh, I see what you mean. I feel it.
Yes.
And it's a unique sensation.
And it's not going into veins or arteries.
It's not.
So
it's
the
not like a
meridians
blood draw.
Right. So that's important for people to understand. And so the intent of an acupuncture session is to balance into
and
the
to
body.
stimulate healing by moving blocks in the energetic system, by moving blocks in the meridian system. And so the question is, what causes those blocks?
Exactly.
Right? So an injury can cause that block in the energetic system. A trauma, you have a surgery, someone has a surgical cut, that would put a block right through the meridian system. So oftentimes people say, after my knee surgery, my knee feels better, but now my foot's numb, and what can we do about that? And so the acupuncture helps increase the circulation, not only of the energy, but actual circulation of blood to the area to improve healing.
So what points would you put it on? How do you begin to know where it is on a body when you give a treatment?
So that's why it's a 3.5-year program. It's not simple to explain just in 1 minute. It's a very complicated philosophy. So you have to learn the whole anatomy of the meridian system and learn how to help balance it. So it works on, acupuncture is considered to work on polarity. You've heard the term yin and yang. These are ancient terms that are used to describe opposites, positive and negative.
Yes.
And so acupuncture is believed to work more on this sort of frequency-based, more from the laws of physics of balancing positive and negative polarity. So it's complicated, but you learn how to balance that in the body by placing needles in certain acupuncture meridians, some that would be considered more yang, some that would be considered more yin, and it is supposed to help create balance. It's a whole different language, a whole different paradigm that we're talking about.
Yes.
But let me tell you, it works.
And it helps the organs? What does it do for the organs of the body?
Well, it's supposed to help increase circulation and functionality of the organs to improve their ability to do what they do.
So many people are afraid of needles.
Yes,
and just the
that's
thought
true.
of a needle is
Yep.
like, oh my goodness. What do these needles look like, and what does a typical session, what is it like?
So the needles, they're not at all like the needles that we use for a blood draw. When people hear about needles, it's a trauma from getting vaccinations as a child
Sure.
and having your blood drawn for laboratory testing. And these are totally different. So they're not hollow, they're solid, and they're like cat whiskers.
Would you like to show?
I
Yeah.
brought some,
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
going to show you. Let me pull out my kit here that I brought. I have this travel kit. It was originally a fishing tackle box, but I never used it for that purpose. I've only used it for carrying acupuncture needles around because acupuncture is very portable. I also carry my acupuncture license in Massachusetts, and I was working at a nursing home there doing acupuncture for some of the elders to help with their pain management. And so I had this kit that I kept in my car, and so I could travel there easily and perform acupuncture treatments there.
Wonderful.
So in this kit, all acupuncture needles are sterile. They have never been used before, and you have to dispose of them immediately after use, just like any other medical equipment. Mm-hmm. So they're sterile, they're never reused, and they're quite tiny. So you can hold them up here, and I'm just going to even brush my finger through it. And
it's almost like a hair. It bounces back and forth.
I'd be surprised if our viewers can even see it because it's so thin and tiny. And you can see it's only about 1 inch long.
Okay.
This one.
And it does not go
in all the way.
Well, that's
it does not go in all the way.
So
it might go in. It goes into the muscles of the body.
Okay.
And so it depends on how big of a muscle group you're putting it into.
Okay.
So it might go in 1/4 of an inch. And if someone has hip pain, I'm going to use a needle that's bigger than this.
Because so different sizes.
There are different sizes. If someone has hip pain and I need to address the pain in the actual area, we have a lot more muscle in that area,
sure.
And so I'm going to need to use a longer needle that's going to get into the muscle and help relieve some of that tension that's created in the hip there.
So how do you insert it? Is there a pattern that you follow on the body related to inserting needles? Are there many needles, or there's just 1 or 2? Or?
It varies from treatment to treatment depending on what someone's coming in for, but I typically might use 8 needles on one side of the body, and then I'll take all of those out, and then I might treat someone's back, and I might use maybe 10 on their back.
So you don't do it on all of the body, just on parts of the body?
On parts of the body in a typical treatment in my office, and each acupuncturist is a little bit different in how they prefer to do their treatment. But in my practice, I like to give a very comprehensive treatment and treat the front and the back side of the body. And so the treatment lasts about an hour.
Do people stay clothed or what happens?
People stay clothed, so that's a very good question. Unlike massage, you can keep your clothes on for the most part. If someone had shoulder pain, I might need them to be in a tank top or have them remove their shirt, and then I can cover someone if need be. So it depends on what part of the body I need to get to, but almost all of the time someone stays clothed, and I might just have them roll their sleeves up so I can address from their elbows down, and then roll their pant legs up and take their socks and shoes off. They'll lie down on a acupuncture table, which is a massage table basically, sure. And then I'll clean the points with some alcohol, and then I'm always going to, even before I do that, I need to determine where the points go.
Of course.
And I do that by taking the pulse and looking at the tongue. So it's called tongue and pulse diagnosis.
So why the tongue?
Okay, so the tongue is the only part of the digestive tract that you can actually see. And so acupuncture was developed thousands of years ago before we had MRIs and X-rays and ways to look inside the body. So the culture that it was developed in, they've learned to find these nuanced ways of figuring out what's wrong with the body. And so looking at the tongue, if anyone's ever paid attention, you might notice that some people have a coating on their tongue, yes. Some people have different shapes on their tongue.
And some people have bumps on their tongue.
Some people have bumps. And in Chinese medicine, there's a whole system of diagnosis of understanding, well, when this part of the tongue looks that way, it's related to that organ, and so I understand that there's an imbalance there. And then Chinese pulse taking is an art. It's a science of its own. It's both. And it's really remarkable.
Is it different from a regular pulse taking?
It is.
How is it different?
So regular pulse taking, mostly we're just feeling for the heart rate.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a story about Chinese pulse taking because that was how I first got exposed to it. I lived in China for a while when I was in college, and I was also exposed to acupuncture there and had this experience that I'm about to tell you. I went to see an acupuncturist, and he said to me, I don't want to know anything about your health. Don't tell me why you're here. I'm just going to look at your tongue and feel your pulse and figure out for myself why you're coming. And so I said, that sounds neat. I'm up for an adventure. So I put my wrists down on the table, and he felt my pulses in both wrists. I spent about 2 or 3 minutes doing that in each wrist, and he looked at my tongue. And then he said, "Tell me, when did you break your arm? Tell me, what challenging event happened in your life 4 years ago? And tell me, how long have your cycles been irregular?" And he listed 3, 4 things that were right on par for me. And it blew me away. I couldn't believe it. He didn't know anything about me. So that's Chinese pulse taking in its higher form. And that is taught in the schools here in the United States. But the level that this man was at was a lifetime of practice.
Surely.
So just like anything, it takes years and years to really become an expert at it. And he was at a place of true expertise where he was able to give me that specific of a diagnosis from my pulse. That's less frequent around looking for acupuncturist around. I don't want to set the expectation that that happens all the time, because it doesn't. But you can tell a lot from the pulse just above and beyond the actual rate of the heart.
Isn't that fascinating? And the tongue? What does the tongue tell us?
So the tongue tells, looking at different parts of the tongue, it tells you about different parts of the body. So I might look at the tongue, and I'm looking for the coating on the tongue. Is there a thick coating? Is there no coating at all? Is the tip of the tongue red? Is it not? And that tells me things about different parts of the body.
So who would benefit from having acupuncture?
Well, frankly, almost anyone, because there are very few contraindications unless someone has a rare bleeding disorder or some unusual conditions.
Would anybody
someone.
typically bleed during an acupuncture session?
Every now and then, when a needle is placed in, it gets placed near a small vein, and sometimes you get a small drop of blood that comes out, and we're prepared to just clean that right off with a cotton ball and move on. That's not infrequent, but often I'll go through many treatments in a day and not see a single drop of blood come
And
out.
what would it feel like when the needle goes in?
Would you like to try it?
Well, why don't we do that for the audience? If I jump or do anything, don't get alarmed.
Okay,
This is
I'm going to
new.
put my sharps container down here.
Okay.
All right, and
So
you saw me
generally,
just
is the
open
hand-
this package
Yeah.
a minute ago. So these
So
are
generally, the
sterile
hand
needles.
would be one of the points?
The hand is one of the points, and I'm going to clean my hands with some alcohol since I don't have a sink nearby to wash.
Do I need to do that
my
with
hands.
mine?
I'm about to clean your
Oh,
hands
okay.
too. Yep.
All right.
So see, you're having the normal experience of being a little bit nervous, which is
Surely.
very, very typical
Okay.
beforehand. So now I'm going to clean your hand. This is a common point right
there.
here between the thumb and the index finger.
Okay.
It's a point that's commonly used for headaches. And I'll often teach people how to do some self-pressure on that point for themselves in between treatments. So I'm just going to move this out of the way
Sure.
here. Okay. So this is a new package that we just opened. This package has 10 needles in it. It has 9 because I just disposed of that one.
Okay.
And there's this little plastic tube that comes in each package, and this is called the guide tube.
Guide.
So I'm going to put the needle into the guide tube, and right now it's just the tube you're going to feel against your hand. So
Okay.
it's not sharp. And
No, doesn't
I'm-
feel like anything.
Yep, I'm going
No.
to use my other hand to feel for the acupuncture point. I can feel where there's an area. It's almost like a little bit of a divot. There's a
Like an
certain
indent
point.
part.
Yep, an
In
indent.
fact, when you see it, I don't know if you can see it from the point of the camera, it kind of just goes in. And what it felt like was a little, not even like a mosquito bite. It would
No,
be.
it's not
just
even.
like a little nothing. It was
Yeah.
really a little nothing. It just,
Right.
a little touch of something went in.
And then it's very normal to just
Ooh.
adjust it a little bit.
Yep, now I felt
That's the chi. That's the chi.
I definitely felt that. Oh,
What did you feel?
Okay, I definitely felt that. So that felt, and now I'm feeling it going right down my fingers.
Yep.
Yeah. So how would you describe that? And also down my pinky. So it felt like, not like a sting, not like a bite. It went in like it's hard
It's
to
a
describe.
pressure.
It's a pressure, but more than a little pressure, it kind of goes in. You feel it go in and then it hits something, but then you feel it and then it's gone. It's not like it lasts. It's just for that second of awareness.
Yep. I
Like-
describe it most of the time as a pressure or an ache.
Okay.
Yep. And
Okay.
even like in a massage, you might hit a point that's a little tender when you're getting a massage, and so
Sure.
it feels like a little bit of an ache there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull that out. There's
Yeah,
no
you
blood.
don't feel anything. No.
And I'm going to dispose of this needle
Sure.
in my sharps container.
Now it's interesting. So when it comes out, you could feel whatever it was going through the hands.
That's the chi.
Yeah.
That's what is considered to be the chi.
The energy. So what it was, and how do you just leave it in that long, or how long do you leave it in?
So if this were a typical treatment, and let's say you were lying down on my acupuncture table,
Surely.
I would have put that point in. I might put about 8 or 10 needles in over your body. Typically, they're from the elbows down and from the knees down.
Sure.
And then I might adjust them so that you feel the chi move.
Okay.
And then I'll put some soothing music on if you are comfortable with that. I might turn the table heater on my table, and then I'm going to say, I will be back in about 10 minutes.
So people probably fall asleep.
The people knock out. They get so relaxed. And I come back in 10 minutes, and I adjust the needles, and I check. And typically it's about a half hour that I might let you relax on that one side. I'm going to take them all out. It's a pretty quick process to take them all out.
Sure.
I might have you flip over, and then I might treat your back. That would be a typical treatment in my office.
And what would people feel at the end? What would they?
Most of the time, when people get up, they just look so relaxed. It's remarkable. We usually have a good laugh because they're just getting up and they're just going, oh, wow, I feel so different than I did an hour ago. That was exactly what someone said to me earlier today. They said, oh my gosh, I came in feeling one way and I feel so different right now. I feel so much better.
So how would this work with sleep?
So acupuncture is great for sleep,
If
whether
somebody was
someone
having
has
trouble?
a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. And that's actually an interesting way to point out different diagnoses in Chinese medicine. If someone's having trouble falling asleep, that indicates a certain type of imbalance in the meridian system. If someone's having trouble staying asleep, say most of the time if you ask, people will wake up between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. Start asking people, not everybody, but most of the time I would have to guess maybe 75% of people will wake up between 1 and 3 in the morning. What's interesting is that in Chinese medicine, looking back, they discovered or have written and believed that the energy moves through the meridians and is dominant in certain meridians at certain times. And between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, it's considered to be dominant in the liver meridian. Now, Chinese medicine holds that the mind and body are not separate and that our emotions are held in our physical body. The liver is thought to hold stress and frustration. So when people wake between 1 and 3 in the morning, which is very common, then often I will say, is there stress in your life? And who doesn't have a little bit of stress?
Right.
And so then I'm usually treating the liver meridian. I'll treat the liver meridian. Usually I'll put in a point on the large intestine meridian because the large intestine helps things clear. That was the point that I just put in on your hand, is on the large intestine meridian.
Okay.
So you're treating the meridians to open up blockages in the energetic system. So if someone's having trouble staying asleep, then I need to know what time they're waking up, because then it helps me know what meridian is out of balance. Oftentimes it's stress-related because we all have a lot of stress. And so then I improve the flow of energy in that meridian through a treatment. And people will often sleep right through the night the next time. For some people, if it's really severe, it might take several treatments. Acupuncture is cumulative. It builds upon itself. So when someone comes to me for the first time, I might say, you know, if this hasn't been going on long, you might just need between 1 and 4 treatments. If it's chronic, it might be 8 to 12 treatments.
So what would people come to you for acupuncture?
Sleep is actually a pretty common one.
Okay. What else?
Back pain is huge. And
it?
a lot of insurances will cover for acupuncture for
They
things
will.
like back pain.
Cool.
Nausea from chemotherapy
Oh,
is
okay.
another very common
That's important to know.
thing that people come in for. Hot flashes,
Oh,
digestive issues,
okay.
stress. People want to come just to help manage their stress.
Now, what if somebody had an addiction? If
Oh,
there were
that's a
drug
great point.
addictions or
Yep.
food addictions
Cigarette.
or whatever, cigarette addictions, would it be
Acupuncture can be
helpful?
very, very helpful for that. Oftentimes the points are placed in the ears
Okay.
as well as the rest of the body. And believe it or not, in some addiction centers, such as methadone clinics,
Yes.
they'll teach the people who are in there to do acupuncture on each other to help with their cravings.
Acupuncture or acupressure?
Acupuncture.
But don't you need to be...
You do need to be licensed
Right.
to do it, but they will teach them to put needles in each other's ears in these centers under supervision.
Now, these needles that they're getting, where are they getting the needles from? Are they from the drug?
I don't know the details.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? But acupuncture can help with drug addiction.
It can help with drug addiction.
Yeah, that's an important piece of information to know with all of the drug overdoses and the extent of what we're finding, not only in our state, but in other states related to the opiate addictions and the heroin addictions and all the things.
We need all the tools we can get.
We do. We
so
need
it's,
all the tools
it's no
we can get.
replacement, but it could be part of a bigger approach.
A more integrative approach. That's a great idea. And how about the age limits of when do you start being able to receive acupuncture?
So anybody can get it. I've worked on children as young as 2 years old.
Okay.
It's not popular with children.
No, I
It's
can
not
understand
popular
that.
with children because they're afraid of needles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be done, and I have treated children. You can do needleless techniques with children.
You can.
More acupressure.
All right.
I use tuning forks sometimes
sure.
and hold them on the points
Oh, yeah.
instead. Or you can use a really blunt tool, almost like the eraser end of a pencil, and hold it and use pressure to stimulate the points. So that's a way that you can treat a child or someone who's very, very sensitive to needles.
That's wonderful. So we've learned a lot about acupuncture, at least the beginning for people to know about it. So if you have any questions or would like further information about acupuncture, you could go to info@ycdholistichealing.com. And the interesting thing, again, is that as a naturopath, you're listed under naturopathic NDs or whatever, and that people can Google you. But will it also say that you're an acupuncturist too?
It will, yes. I do hold my acupuncture license here in New Hampshire.
So I would
well.
think that that combination really makes you good in both realms. Having the acupuncture helps you be able to have a further understanding of naturopathy and the understanding of how it relates, and then being a naturopathic doctor in acupuncture really makes you quite unique.
It really does. It really helps enhance each other.
Well, I'm delighted that you were with us today. And again, if you have any questions or want further information, please go to info@ycdholistichealing.com. Have a great day.